Ladies and gentlemen, the Chicago Bulls have announced their first half of the season schedule, and it could be very, very interesting. A lot of big games, a lot of big tests, and a lot of obstacles for the Chicago Bulls to overcome. Just how brutal will this first half of the season be for us? Let's find out who we face in each month in this video. Let's do it. What's up, everybody? It's the Aiden Sports Show, and welcome back to another video. Today we've got a Chicago Bulls video in relation to the 2020-2021 NBA season, the schedule for the Chicago Bulls, who will we be facing throughout each month, how difficult will these games be, and overall, what my expectations out of these months could potentially be for the Chicago Bulls, considering the opposition that we will face in the first few months. But before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Aiden Sports Show YouTube channel, turn notifications on, and let me know in the comments below, what are you expecting out of this first half of the season for the Chicago Bulls now that you've seen the teams that we will be facing. Now, obviously, a lot of people have been talking already about the start of the season, and for the Chicago Bulls, we have a lot to discuss, especially in terms of the difficulty of the few games that we'll be starting off with, and especially in the December and January period. But who are we facing? Let's kick things off. The first thing I want to go through is the month of December. Obviously, we have our two Houston games in the preseason, our two Oklahoma City games in the preseason, but our regular season kicks off with the Atlanta Hawks on the 23rd, moving over to the Indiana Pacers, the Golden State Warriors, the Washington Wizards, and again, the Washington Wizards at the end of the month. So, those are the start of the games that we'll be having in December. Atlanta, Indiana, the Warriors, and the Wizards. Very interesting games that we could potentially win, and also games we may be able to struggle with. The start of the season, in my opinion, the month of December, I'm expecting at least 2 wins out of that month, to be honest, but I'm not sure exactly if we will be able to get that. Again, we wait and see. But December is the start of the year. It's the ones where you want to watch. You have evaluations of your team, and you're starting to see, I guess, the chemistry on the court come into play. A lot of these teams are going to come in very rusty, including the Chicago Bulls. So there could be wins and losses that potentially you didn't see coming that could potentially happen. But again, January. Now, January is the month that we really have to talk about, because, my goodness, the games in January are going to be very tough for the Chicago Bulls. Moving into January of the 2021 season, we've got the Milwaukee Bucks first. Then we move over to the Dallas Mavericks, the Portland Trail Blazers, the Sacramento Kings, the Lakers, and the Clippers in consecutive games. Then we've got the Boston Celtics. Moving on to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Then we've got Dallas. Then we've got Houston. Then we've got the LA Lakers, and we've got Boston again, we've got Memphis, and then we've got Portland. So, again, you've seen all these games on the screen. You know the times and the dates. But that's a very, very, very hard month for the Chicago Bulls. So many teams here you expect to beat us, to be honest. The Houston Rockets, the Boston Celtics, both at the LA teams. We can pick up victories over teams like the Kings, OKC, and the Grizzlies. But overall, I think this month will be very challenging for the Chicago Bulls. Again, it's one of those months where you could end up having 3 or 4 wins out of the entire month, and that is not good enough for a team that's aspiring to be a playoff team. But hopefully, we can pick up wins against very big teams, very strong teams, because that's the thing we're aspiring for, to be a good, strong team. And that could potentially take a few months, few years to get. But we need to start off with beating some of these teams that we don't expect to beat these days. We need to start off with beating them. Moving on to February. Now, February is a little bit of a quieter month, but still there could be challenges ahead for us. So, in February, oh, by the way, before we get to February, for January, teams that, what makes me a little bit more optimistic is that the teams that we haven't even had verse yet is the Cavs. We will not be versing the Cavs for a long time, and that's a team that we should be comfortably beating. And the Pistons are a team that we should be beating as well. Now, of course, on paper, we should be beating them. Will we beat them in the regular season is something that we will have to wait and see. But there are easier teams on the schedule in the horizon that we just have not versed yet, and that we won't verse for a long time. So the tough teams that do come ahead at the beginning, we should be able to have a much easier schedule down the stretch. So it's all about beating the teams that we can beat, all about trying to get play as hard as possible, win as many games as possible, because the season, towards the end of the season, will be a little bit easier for us. Now, moving on to February. At the start of February, we've got the New York Knicks twice. We've got the Orlando Magic twice. Then we've got Washington. Then we've got the Pelicans and the Clippers. Then we've got Indiana, the Charlotte Hornets. Then we've got Philadelphia, the Sacramento Kings, the Houston Rockets, Minnesota, Phoenix, and Toronto. So this is a little bit of an easier month, I could say, for the Chicago Bulls. I expect a little bit more wins in this than I do over the previous 2 months. But again, anything can happen in this month as well. We should be beating the likes of New York. We should be beating the likes of Sacramento. We have the quality and the players to do it. But of course, teams like Philadelphia, the Phoenix Suns, teams like the Pacers, which are a bit of a tough stretch, but there is always a chance to beat them. And obviously teams like the Clippers that we do verse again are teams that you just don't expect to beat. We don't expect to beat them, even though we've done it before. And of course, March only consists of 2 games at the moment. It's going to be Denver and the Pelicans. And yeah, that is the first half of the season for us. So I expect December and January to be extremely difficult for the Chicago Bulls. We've been hit with a very brutal schedule for the start of the season. Again, so many Western Conference teams. Again, the West is very strong. And of course, a lot of the teams in the West, you expect the Chicago Bulls to maybe have some close battles with. But ultimately, the West teams, majority of them should be coming out on top. I do expect us to win a few of the tougher games. I don't expect us to lose every single tough game. That would just not be NBA-like. Of course, the best of the best teams end up losing a few games, and that's just how it goes. Not every team will go out of this perfect. So I do expect us to beat some hard teams this season. I do expect us to lose to a few easy teams this season, similar to last season. All I want to see is progression out of these players. I want to see players like Wendell and Lowry take the big step. I want to see Kobe White take a big step. I want to see Patrick Williams shine. I want to see all these things. And obviously, if we see all of them, we could be getting a few more wins, a lot more wins than we saw last season. But that's a very tough schedule, and I'm not going to lie to you. A lot of those games I don't feel so optimistic about looking at it on paper. But again, the season is so quick to come. We will be in the fix of things very, very quickly, and I do think the Chicago Bulls will have enough to beat some of these teams in the end. Of course, we have to wait and see how that will go, but I'm going to end this video here, ladies and gentlemen. That is the schedule for the Chicago Bulls in the first half of the season, from December 11th until March the 3rd. Those are going to be the schedule. We will find out more about the second half of the schedule throughout the year, I believe. I don't think we're announcing that anytime soon. Of course, these games could be subject to change depending on the virus, and just exactly who's going to get it, which team's going to get it. If there is any team, hopefully the responsibility lies on the players, and hopefully we can get through all these games the way that it's supposed to be. And hopefully we can end up having a very good season at the end of it. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. Let me know in the comments below, out of all the games that I've announced today, out of every month, which games are you most excited about? To be honest, the game that I'm most excited about, I really want to face teams like the Atlanta Hawks and the Charlotte Hornets. I know they're not the bigger teams, but they're the teams that we are in competition with. So I want to see how well we perform against those teams that we're going to be fighting for a playoff spot with. And those are the games I'm looking forward to the most. Obviously, games like the Lakers and the Clippers, you're versing LeBron and AD, you're versing Kawhi and Paul George, you're versing some of the best players. I mean, James Harden as well in the Rockets. You're going to be versing these players. So, of course, that's exciting. But I want to see just where our competition is and how far away or how close are we to getting into the next step of the Bulls, I guess, retooling, and that is the playoffs. Without further ado, guys, that's the end of the video. Have a wonderful and safe day. I'll see you in another Chicago Bulls video. Media Day will continue. Hopefully, there will be a video about that out tomorrow. Take care and peace.